Hey guys, it's Diaries back with another video. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe, like this video, share this video, and to my returning subscribers, you know I love you guys. In this video, I am going to be comparing dry detangling versus wet detangling to help you guys decide which one is best for you guys. And of course, when I say dry detangling, I mean dry detangling, okay? Not dry detangling with spritzing of water. That's not dry detangling, that's really damp detangling. You see a lot of videos out here of people saying dry detangling, but it's really not dry detangling. Okay, so this is the real dry detangling. If you're interested in this video, keep watching. For a long time, we have been told that you must never ever touch your hair when it's dry. And while there is some truth to this, it is not completely accurate. Dry hair, of course, if it's crunchy dry, it's gonna break, right? It's fragile, it's brittle, and with manipulation, it's not gonna withstand the test of time, pretty much. So it's gonna just break off. However, there's things that you can implement when you try to dry detangle to make sure that this doesn't happen. Now, advocates for wet detangling, right? And when I say wet detangling, I simply mean detangling with a conditioner, with water, whatever, but your hair is not dry, okay? Advocates for wet detangling boast a lot of things and a lot of advantages, which I agree with. However, I think we've forgotten a little bit about the benefits of dry detangling as well. Now, straight out, before I even get into comparing the two, I just want to say, guys, if you're going to dry detangle your hair, as in without water, your hair must be moisturized. It must well and truly be moisturized prior to you attempting this. So the moisturization could have happened a day or two prior, and then once the hair is dry and stretched and all that, then you go and try to attempt dry detangling. However, if your hair is crunchy, if your hair is brittle, if you haven't mastered your moisturizing routine, we're not going to be dry detangling here, okay? So first, let's talk about wet detangling, okay? Wet detangling hair is something that I've practiced ever since I was a natural, right? That is lots of slip, okay? And that's an advantage because you want the hair to be able to glide against each other for you to be able to detangle effectively and without too much breakage. So you've got slippage, you have got the fact that the hair is flexible. Of course, it's wet and it's very manageable in that sense because it's wet. Okay, you also have the advantage of elasticity. When the hair is wet, it can actually stretch quite a bit more than its actual length. So you have that advantage as well when it comes to detangling your hair wet. Another thing is flexibility, all right? The hair is quite flexible and manageable. You can really just do whatever you want with it when it's wet without struggling, okay? So those are some of the advantages of wet detangling. Another thing with wet detangling is that it actually doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take as much time. Let me just rephrase that. Detangling your hair, well, it takes time, period. However you do it, particularly for someone with long, thick hair like myself, it takes time, whether you do it dry or wet. However, compared to dry detangling, wet detangling can actually be quicker because you have that slip and you have quite, a few advantages to wet detangling your hair. Now, the thing here with wet detangling is that people seem to turn a blind eye to the fact that when you do wet detangling, your hair is actually at its weakest point. Hair is weakest when it's wet. So the question is, why do we detangle our hair when it's at its weakest? That's a question we need to answer, right? Another disadvantage of detangling your hair wet is that you can't hear the hair snap. Because there's so much product in the hair, there's a lot of conditioners and slippage and the hair is flexible and all that. It's wet pretty much. So you can't actually hear the hair snapping as you comb it. So you've got no idea if it's breaking, if it's not. All you know is you have that slippage in the hair. So that's another disadvantage of detangling the hair wet. Another thing is, particularly if you're coming from deep conditioning with heat, your cuticle is likely open. And an open cuticle just means that the gliding ability of the hair is impeded. So it's not gonna glide against each other as easily. It may because of the slippage, but just the individual hairs themselves with a slightly open cuticle can actually be problematic because the hair is not able to glide against each other as smoothly. Another thing with wet detangling is that you are dealing with shrinkage, right? You're dealing with hair that just wants to shrink up on itself naturally because it's wet. And the problem with that is that you detangle the hair and it snaps back. You detangle the hair and it snaps back, okay? So I'm one of those people that have experienced like thoroughly detangling my hair, and then the next minute there's tangles again. And that is because of the wet form that the hair is in and the shrinkage that just encourages tangles. Our hair naturally just wants to tangle up on itself. Now, dry detangling. Dry detangling is something that a lot of naturals are scared of, and myself as well for a long time, right? Dry detangling has got many advantages. The first thing is that hair is at its strongest. Yay! You're dealing with hair that's already a bit stronger than wet hair, so breakage, it has a little bit of resilience against breakage. The next advantage is that you can hear the hair snap because it's dry. So if you're gonna break some hair, you will feel it. So it might be 1 or 2 snaps, but that's it, which is different to wet hair. Wet hair, you can't hear it, so you've got no idea. Dry hair, you will know, okay, here I snap, yeah, need to slow down, need to, take it easy, be more patient, be more gentle, etc. So you can actually hear dry hair snap. When the hair is dry, most likely the cuticle is gonna be flat. What does that mean? It's gonna glide against each other easier. Hey, makes sense, doesn't it? So dry detangling hair does offer you that advantage of just the hairs gliding against each other a little bit better. And that way you get less friction and an easier detangling session. When the hair is dry, you can try and make sure that you dry it in a stretched state and it will stay stretched, which means less tangles, less shrinkage. You don't have to deal with hair that you detangle and then it snaps back, right? Once you brush it or detangle it, it can stay in that state and not tangle up on itself again. Now, disadvantages of dry detangling. For me, they're not so many. It's just the fact that the hair is more rigid, right? It's not as flexible as wet hair. So you do have the advantage of having the smoothness of the cuticles gliding against each other, but you also have the fact that the hair is not rigid. It's not flexible, okay? So it's more rigid, and if you force it, you could snap it, all right? You could break it. So that's a disadvantage. Another disadvantage is that you may need to actually spend more time. It's a little bit time consuming, I guess, with dry detangling, simply because you can hear the hair snap. The hair is a little bit more rigid, so you have to be careful when you're dealing with the hair. And yeah, that can take more time. However, you save more hair. So I don't know if it's an advantage or a disadvantage, the fact that it takes more time. With wet hair, like I said already, it's a little bit quicker. You're gliding, you're just up in there, you can't hear anything, who cares? Get on with it. But with dry detangling, you can't take shortcuts. You can hear the hair snap, you can feel it, it's dry, it's rigid, you're forced to be careful. So when I say rigid, I mean just more rigid than wet hair. It's not rigid as in like that, it's just less elastic, it's less flexible than wet hair. I'm sure you guys know how to detangle your hair wet already. Lots and lots of conditioner, lots of slip, finger detangle first, and then go in with your tools if that's what you do. If you're gonna dry detangle, like I've said already, your hair must well and truly be moisturized before you start. And then the next thing that you go ahead is to select an oil, something like olive oil. Some people like coconut oil, others like castor oil, but find an oil that you like and use that to detangle, okay? So adding oil to the hair helps with a little bit of slip and gliding ability of the hair. So the oils are pretty essential for detangling the hair dry. With both these types of detangling styles or methods, you want to make sure that you work in sections. There's nothing more overwhelming than dealing with a full head of natural, thick, long, type 4 hair. And this is why wash and goes just give me heart palpitations because I hate dealing with my hair as a whole. I know you can do it in sections, but even just seeing my hair as a whole is a lot. It's overwhelming. So yeah, deal with it in sections. Do it patiently. Take your time. Don't rush through things. Make sure you do it when you're calm and not frustrated or in a hurry or anything like that. Now, am I suggesting that you stop wet detangling your hair altogether? Not at all. I just think that if you can do a lot of your detangling or the majority of your detangling while the hair is dry, then you can go ahead and do wet detangling. However, it's, just going in a little bit more thoroughly rather than doing everything when the hair is wet. So the idea here is that you deal with a lot of the tangles when your hair is strongest, when your hair is, like able to withstand that breakage or the manipulation, when the hair can glide against each other better. So you can just go in with your fingers and separate the hair and just try to remove shed hairs and remove all those major tangles before you go ahead to wet detangle your hair. I have done a video where I do dry detangling on my mini twists. That works for me because I'm working in super small sections. I barely feel the overwhelm of detangling because it's really tiny sections at a time, and I'm able to retain quite a bit of length with that method of dry detangling on my mini twists. Will I ever wet detangle? Of course. There's a place for dry detangling and there's a place for wet detangling in any routine, really. It's just a matter of being smart and being intentional about how you use these two different methods. I like to thoroughly detangle my hair maybe once or twice a year. However, any other day, I'm pretty much dry detangling and just going through little mini twists at a time. However, at the end of the year, I might do a big detangle, both dry and wet, and just really get all the shed hairs and my hair super detangled, just to make sure, particularly at the base, you're not getting locks, if you know what I mean. If you have mini twists, you know what I'm talking about. The hair can really start to web at the base there. So it's important to do that thorough detangle every now and again. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe, like this video, share this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.